Hello and welcome back. It's time again for Salesformation. It's our Thursday time, so that means one thing and one thing only. It's going to be English speaking, so if you want to join us, feel free. We're always cross-posting, so it doesn't matter if you join us on the Feminist Economy side or on the Empathic Business side or on the Westenthanner Media side. All of them you will find us. And we're starting off with one of my most beloved and most interesting things I'm probably doing in all around Salesformation time. So we're starting out on the English speaking part with the dirty sales tricks. To give you some context, the summer of last year, I started a Facebook Live, and also you find it in German on the Facebook page, as also on the YouTube channel, about dirty sales tricks. And it got quite some noise. Why did I start that? If you look at how sales perception is, or even sometimes wonder how the hell, why do people buy that? Or how did I end up buying that? Or even making a little bit more bigger picture on that, thinking about that every time there is a result included, so you want to achieve a certain kind of result with your communication, it's kind of sales. You never not sell if you have a goal in mind. So that picture and back is also quite necessary to understand much of the political culture around sales and manipulation, because it's nothing else. So that's how the dirty sales trick started. And since we're starting out doing more English stuff too, I thought it would be a good time. So we ended the sales mindset part last week. So if you have a look at that and want to go back to that, we're now going into more of the human behavior of groups. So let's give you a little bit also on the background on dirty sales tricks and a little bit more on the background what I'm doing. Though you're probably wondering, so great, she's talking English now, but what the hell does she do? So what we're doing here is we develop the whole of sales and marketing strategies, but also business digitalized visual models. One thing which is very important to understand is that our developments are based on human behavior. And human behavior not on an individual, but human behavior as a group. So a dirty sales trick would not work, any kind of sales tactic would not work if there is just one person responding to it. Considering that it's not that you need one client, you need repetitive clients, you need a whole group. That's why we call it client target groups, not anything else. So it's all about groups. And sales always has to be targeted as groups. So I'm a human behavior specialist for groups. Yes, I studied math. That's why I'm a behavioral mathematician. So to get that a little bit together, because also to understand, you cannot calculate the human behavior of an individual, but you can, to a certain degree of always, can calculate the behavior of a whole group. So groups are much more calculatable or much more predictable than one individual person. So that's just like to get you some backgrounds. So why do I talk about a dirty sales trick, and what is even a dirty sales trick, or what is it even not? So of course there is that kind of view on sales that it's all over a little bit dirty, which to be honest, I was called the queen of sales for so many years now, and I don't think that sales per se on a baseline is dirty. It's not like that. But of course there are, considering from which side you come, it leaning of course always a little bit more to a more manipulative approach, and from a shortly or a little bit or a sprinkler of manipulation into a really dirty trick to kind of play you. So that's always the baseline. So dirty sales trick is based on, I'm telling you today the structure of a dirty sales trick and presenting you the next week with special dirty sales tricks, and also where kind of the border is and what you can use out of them. So that's what we're going to do over the next weeks, and there will be quite a lot. I'm giving you the whole rundown what we cover over the next weeks today. So of course sales is result driven. We don't know each other, and in the end you have to give me money. That's literally what sales is. extreme change management process. If you think about it, we don't know each other, and in the end, you give me your hard-earned cash. It's kind of a change. But also how to approach that is very different. First of all, every dirty sales trick is based in the approach from the psychology of the sale or selling psychology, not in the psychology of client psychology. So that's kind of like more of an ethical and like a baseline approach. Where do you come from? Do you want to optimize your sales, or do you want to optimize kind of for the decision process for your client? That would be client psychology. If you optimize your sales process or marketing, doesn't matter, it's the selling psychology. So in selling psychology, it's very hard-rooted. If you look at the kind of history where sales psychology comes, it's hardcore rooted in a very manipulative approach. It's coming out of also political propaganda systems. So it is kind of that playing field where that stuff comes from. So if we look at, it's always kind of like there is no hard line where a dirty sales trick is established and where it's kind of like a sales tactic. So you always have to figure out for yourself, what do you feel comfortable with? So what do you feel is kind of like in your kind of ethics, in your kind of leadership understanding? Because if you do sales from a leadership perspective, you will not jump to certain hoops and go over certain borders as if you're coming from a hard sell position. So that's just like that. And also there can be that in certain countries, some sales stuff is even a little bit regulated, but a dirty sales trick is always kind of that. It's not illegal. So if you think about illegal being kind of like color, which is an awful colonization, but it's kind of the black side. It's awful that it's still that called, but please help me out for a kind of like new wording for that. But it's kind of like on the dark side, then it's illegal. And dirty sales tricks are sometimes a little bit gray or grayish, or sometimes white with a little bit of gray sprinkles on it. But that's kind of like you always have to figure out, you're by yourself, which lines do you want to cross or don't want to cross. So a dirty sales trick is always about but a certain degree of manipulation. And it also comes from like different kind of approaches. So into a dirty sales trick, and that's what we're going to do today, I'll give you the rundown how the dirty sales tricks are built and what kind of themes the dirty sales tricks run into. So how does a dirty sales trick is built? So first of all, it has to be the first necessary thing. It always has to have at least some grain of truth in it. Sometimes it's just like a little grain of salt truth, but sometimes it's a little bigger, but it's not, it always has to have a certain degree of truth in it. Otherwise, your brain will recognize that you totally lied it. We see that when we talk about fake news. A fake news concept which is so exaggerated over the time has to start out in a field where it sounds reasonable and has a certain degree of truth. So nothing totally exaggerated doesn't work. It has to be always a certain kind of truth in it. The second component of a good dirty sales trick is the stuff you don't telling people. So it's kind of, you have a little bit of truth and then you leave a whole room of that your possible client can fill in the blanks, stuff like that. So it's a whole stuff you do not tell in a dirty sales trick. So these are the first two components. And the third component is also that you need a specific target group. So and that's kind of like the first learning thing you should always think about that. A dirty sales trick just works that well because it's so tailor-made for a specific target groups, sometimes even target groups, but it's tailor-made. And if you think about your own sales, and if you hear me nagging about we need your client avatars, how to build them up right for your target groups, and your communication has to be specific, that nagging thing is also what a dirty sales trick can do sometimes at its best. So if you want a learning point from dirty sales tricks, it's that tailor-made perfect fit of target groups. And doing that in two kind of ways. First of all, of course, as always in sales, using language which is tailor-made for your target group. So think about if you're reaching to a target group, which are moms. You talk differently than you want to target group the highly successful, earning nearly 7 figures businessman. You would totally talk different to them. But that's kind of like, and that's not even target groups, just moms and highly successful businessmen are not target groups. It's just like an idea of a target group, just to make that clear. So that's, of course, the communication side is necessary. And the so that's kind of our next point. And the next point, which every dirty sales trick is, it's always target to a certain kind of insecurity in that target group. It always plays with the insecurities of the target group. That per se is nothing wrong, and we also do that, but there is again that kind of what ethical line do you want to cross? Do you want to go over, yes or no? So playing a little bit, of course, and calling out the insecurities. If I'm telling you my clients hire me because they look at their account and think like, damn, that money, where is my next client coming from? That stuff, of course, is also, like I'm talking about the insecurities a little bit here, how my target group has, but it's a different feel if you like kind of do that into an extreme. So that's why I'm saying a dirty sales trick has not like a hard line where it becomes dirty or what is a white hat. So always playing with the insecurities. And also, which is very necessary, it's also about the group and the social norms. That's also a very essential part of a dirty sales trick. Coming back to that, sales just works if the target group is big enough. So it doesn't help you if you have like 10 people out there who are going to buy from you. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to help you out, especially if you have like, if it's not a product which like costs $1 million or so, but it has to have a certain kind of big enough group for that. So to target a group, you always have to think in group behavior. And group behavior is by many stuff called by social norms. We act in a group to a certain degree very, very differently than as an individual. And then we also change our behavior if depending on the group where we are. So group is a very essential thing. There are many, many behavioral experiments I also conducted while I was studying back in the day. Go even further. So it is a very interesting field, but all these always like research can be used like two-sided, and that's what we see in a dirty sales trick. So very important to understand that basic structure. So that's kind of like the basic structure combined with kind of, if someone constructs a dirty sales trick to use it and would be honest, the last portion is how can I be the most manipulative way? Most people will not be that honest. And that's kind of like why that whole series started. So the whole series of dirty sales tricks not only started because I was fed up with how the market used sales, how I was fed up how people were unaware of what they are buying, but the last part was, and which is much more dear to my heart and was really heartbreaking, to see kind of like people I really like or that I really enjoy what they're doing, using these kind of tactics, not aware what they're doing. And then I'm very irritated, doesn't work with their moral codex, that they got burned out, that they don't do their sales, that they always run around and figuring out their sales mindset. Why, it's just based on a very wrong skill set about how sales really works. And if you have a very high ethical standard, and most of my surrounding has that, and then use for your own feeling very unethical tactics and stuff like that, you're not gonna feel well, and you will be in that point where you gonna not either do your sales or gonna break down, have an entrepreneurial burnout, never change, or just probably start that very successful and financial and on many means very fulfilling career in sales, or you're not gonna pitch your project very well and all that stuff, because it's not because of you, because you're using the wrong sales tactic, which doesn't match with your own experience how sales should be conducted. Remember, I'm always telling you, the best sales you can do is high on empathy, high on your resilience, and coming from a perspective of client psychology and kind of the servant leadership theme, like, I want to serve you, I'm here to help you. That's a very different approach than a dirty sales tricks. And that's kind of the main thing. On a certain superficial view, it will even look the same. So what you now know is, what is a dirty sales trick? That it's not something illegal. It can be sometimes illegal in some countries. So depending on the field, if you're like working like in healthcare in Germany, so if you're watching from the US and you have advertising for medication, we will not even see that. If you're working in healthcare in Germany, you're not even allowed to advertise. So there's kind of that thing, but also kind of certain degree of manipulations. Techniques can be borderline illegal, but they're normally not used that extreme. But there is, if it's kind of like, there are legal restrictions to it, but normally there is, as always, if there is not someone telling you, you will not be ending up in front of a judge. You also want to know now the basic structure on how these sales tricks are built up. What you don't know is what sales tricks we're gonna cover, and we do a short rundown. So the next week we're gonna deep dive into a dirty sales trick, one each time, and I also do a little bit going deeper in you and kind of saying or telling you, whitehead style, what is necessary, what you can use from it, and what you should leave to the rest, or kind of use that. And always the dirty sales tricks, I'm normally, I love it when you like and talk to me in these videos, but the dirty sales tricks have a much more educational, because in the end, if you fail or fall into the trap of a dirty sales trick, it costs you money, it costs your family money and stuff like that. So please share these videos if you think they're helpful. You can share them from either Facebook or from YouTube. That thing will always be uploaded. So before we go into all that shebang, so we done that. So here we are in a short rundown. What are the most common used dirty sales tricks? I have to get my phone because I wrote them down over the time. And I have to be honest, there are also even sometimes coming up more and more, because that's the next thing. If you stumble over a sales tactic or sales trick or any kind of stuff, you think, hey, is that dirty? Please send it to me. Please send it to me. I would love to see what you think would be probably a dirty sales trick. And as soon as we covered some ground of the most common dirty sales tricks, we will go even deeper into that kind of stuff, with how that stuff is combined. And of course, yes, there is a sales training coming up for you if you want to learn the right way. So yes, of course. But we're in moving headquarters, so yeah, take some time. So the most commonly used, one of the most commonly used dirty sales tricks, you will be all aware, is a jealousy sell. So jealousy sell is playing with the jealousy. So here is my boat, my pool, and all that shebang. Yeah. One of the also most common used is the fake it till you make it sell, which comes into and getting illegal if you do a lie sales. A lie sales is then when you tell really product features or stuff which really do not exist. So that is that kind of way. So be very aware that there is a kind of totally illegal version of it. Then the most common sell is what is called a non-product sell, which I told you about is you leave stuff out. Yeah, that's kind of like the masterclass of not telling what you even buy. So it's a non-product, non-feature sell. It's kind of the version of an Excel vision or dream sell, but the dirty kind of row. Oh, then we have a hell lot of more on the spiritual side sell, law of attraction sells, or more esoterical stuff like that. Then we have, of course, which is highly targeted as women or at women, also at very insecure client groups which don't earn that much. It's about the sell that you finally can get the money you are worth it. So that's kind of a really common one. A very common one is also just working with a yes sell tactic. That's a very common theme, but it can be built up to a very dirty version of it. Then one of the most common, if you go into network marketing, so many of these dirty sales tricks you will see in network marketing, on big stage sales, on squeeze pages, landing pages, so you will get a different kind of view on the world outside. The passive income and uncapped earning potential sell. Really, 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 really a dirty one. Also the expert business sell, also one of these, and of course the always tell your story sell, and also how you overcome the hurdles, and because you overcome them, anyone can overcome them with the exact same method you used. So you see, there's a hell lot of stuff going on in these dirty sales tricks. So I hope you liked to that you now understand what a dirty sales trick is, that you now see the common structure of a dirty sales trick, and in the next week we will go deeper and work our way through the different kind of dirty sales tricks, and have a view at the world around us, hopefully changing, and yeah, so that you not fall trapped by using them by accident, and also, much more important, don't fall trap to buy stuff which just manipulated you into buying. So that was it for a round of dirty sales work and salesperation for that week. I hope to see you soon again next week. Until that, please stay healthy, stay well, and yeah, see you next week. Bye.